Today's conversation unfolds with a woman whose life is a testament to transformation. Dayna Wylder stepped out of a world shaped by trauma, disconnection, and chronic stress, and in a profound understanding of the body as a living field of energy, vibration, and possibility. Her journey through illness, awakening, and the wisdom of subtle layers of self has shaped a powerful message. Healing is not correction but communication, and sound, in her world, is medicine. Let's dive into how she weaves frequency, somatics, and ancient philosophy into a deeply human path back to wholeness. Welcome to the show, Dana. It's such an honor to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Mhm. So, Dana, you often describe sound as a bridge between the seen and the unseen layers of the shelf. How do you see how did sound healing first become a meaningful part of your personal journey?
Well, I think there was a couple moments for me. The one that was perhaps the most inspirational definitely came one day while I was sitting on my couch at home. And this was pretty in the thick of the weeds of my darkest moment. So I do have multiple sclerosis, which developed after years of trauma, suppressing emotions, escapism, and disconnecting from my body. And this was a really full circle moment for me because a lot of the years where I had those negative behaviors, they came about through the rave culture. And this was late night parties, drugs, dancing, and escaping and suppressing all my feelings. And at the time, that music, although melodic and in a trance and creating complete bliss in my body, it came with all of these negative side effects. And years later, through lots of twisted roads and different paths, I did end up with multiple sclerosis. And 4 years ago, I had this major relapse where I couldn't walk, I couldn't see anymore. And all of a sudden, I was actually really disconnected from my body, but not because I was trying to escape it. I was very much trying to get back into my body. But this disease had manifested, which, for those of you who don't know multiple sclerosis, is a miscommunication between your brain and your body through the nervous system. And so now I can't walk, I can't read, I can't see. I'm sitting on the couch though one day and house music is playing. And as the music was playing and it was washing over me, this moment of pure bliss, joy, and remembering just came into my body. And I thought, all just like lightning struck me right in that moment. I'm missing bliss. And it was odd to me that I had missed that being a yoga teacher and knowing the 5 koshas of healing, that bliss is the most inner part of our healing. But in this trying to overcome my disease and still very much being in the physical reality, I had focused a lot yoga as the asanas and the poses and my diet and my lifestyle. And I did all the right exercise and the right behaviors, but I did it almost with a sort of force and a struggle against my body. But it was in that moment where I was listening to the house music that it just came to me that joy and bliss was something that my body remembered. And those days when I owned the dance floor and I shared that beat, that tribal music where all of us on the dance floor were sharing this one harmonic moment with each other. I would remember that. And I stood up and I started to just sway. And although I wasn't really well enough to actually dance the way I used to, I could just feel the music moving through me and starting to reconnect lost parts of myself. And that's really when I got the motivation to write my book. And also to really dive deeper into, I was already using some energy tools in both my own healing and also sharing it through my practice with others. But that moment, that's really when I started to get deeper into biofield tuning with tuning forks and sound baths, more as my yoga classes, instead of just so much the poses, it really started to becoming more about sound, mantra, using our own voice and vibrational healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. And when you think back to those early experiences, was there a specific moment where you realized sound wasn't just soothing but transformative?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not even back then that I can see it. I still see it every time I teach sound bath frequently still to my community, and I see it in other people. And Sometimes I don't even plan what we're gonna cover during that day because I like to have a theme with all of my, gatherings. I just go based on the energy of the group as I feel people coming in, and it is so often that I have people lie down while we're having the sound journey together, and they wear eye masks. So they really feel safe because they've shut off all their other senses, and all they really are doing now is listening to the sound of crystal bowls and chimes and all these beautiful overtones taking them on a journey. And I get to watch as they're all just lying there still. And I can see how when I play different sounds, one for instance, the 528 hertz, whenever I play that one, I see people oftentimes take a deep breath and sigh out. And when I play 432, I see people starting to like their shoulders are dropping, their abdomen starts to slowly move up and down more rhythmically. You can sort of see the vibrations washing over people. And it's oftentimes during those moments that people come back into the room and are crying or are expressing some kind of emotion that's been stored. And that's the beautiful thing about the sound is that we don't need to remember the trauma. We don't need to know what happened that stuck the energy in our body because the body has its own type of communication, and that is vibrational. And the body, once we start to oscillate it with more harmonic frequencies, it can release some of those stuck things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I imagine many listeners might not expect a single frequency or tone to create such a shift. So, your example really helps to open that doorway for them. And you work with the idea that we are energy, vibration, and frequency at our core. How did understanding this reshape your relationship with your diagnosis and your body?
So I think before the diagnosis for me, they try to. There's a lot of scare and fear mongering in traditional medicine. They give you a prognosis and they instantly tell you, what the outlook looks like. How many years? They told me 10 years to be in a wheelchair, and I think the part of me always understood that my body was more capable than what they were telling me, and I never really believed my diagnosis from the beginning. And I know this moves a little bit out of the sound and more just into how thought also is frequency and what belief really does in the body. And I never believed that the diagnosis was going to be part of my story for the rest of my life. And so on my 10-year anniversary of my multiple sclerosis, I actually did a triathlon instead. And I think that when we look at what's possible, when we see ourselves more as energy beings instead of material beings, it takes the control back into our life. Because when we believe that we just are genes that just manifest we got from our parents and that we're fated to whatever destiny, and once we have a disease, that's it, it's in the body, and we believe those poor prognoses, if whether we believe it or whether we don't, it becomes true. And so having this power of belief that we created this disease in our body. And I don't want to make that sound like I blame anybody for their disease, because certainly we would all choose not to have a sickness. But knowing that we are energy and vibration and that everything really comes from the mind outwards to the physical, it really places a lot of self responsibility onto us. But also, it's not just that we're self responsible, but it gives us a tremendous amount of power to then self heal because we are not confined to a physical body. And there's way more possible when we open up our mind and we shift those old patterns and limiting beliefs that shaped us into our dis-ease. And instead, we create a mind that's conducive for healing. And sound is a beautiful bridge between the two because I often find like I also teach meditation, and meditation is transformative and it is an essential practice, especially in our day and age with so many um, negative media and so many external stimuli and different energetic frequencies entering into our field. But for a lot of us, meditation becomes pretty difficult because we have that monkey mind, and it's hard for us to sit down and really even find 5 minutes to just be still. But why sound can become so beautiful is it gives our left brain, sorry, the left brain that's analytical, thinking, always wanting a task, labeling, judging. It gives that part of our brain something to focus on. So especially when I play, say, the crystal bowls, there are so many tones in it. And it gives that part of your brain something to focus on. And while it has a job of focusing on something, it allows the other part of you, the subconscious, where all those old programs are running, it allows access to that part to reprogram, to be in a state of self hypnosis, where you're now trying to change those patterns you had previously of overwhelm, of anxiety, of stress. And I know this to really be something that isn't just out there that we're talking about. There's real validity to it. And although there's countless studies that you'll find out there on the internet, PubMed, and other places, my own personal experience, I had a gentleman come one time to do sound bath, and he had a heart rate monitor that was going to be on for 3 days, and it was going to be tracking all kinds of different metrics for him, including heart rate variability. And he decided he wanted to come and participate in my sound bath class to see how that would stack up against some other alternative healing modalities. And I was very interested to see what the results of that would be. Now, he didn't really ever do yoga before, and I know that was a bit of anxiety, and I always incorporate a little bit of movement before sound. And he also was late coming that day because didn't get the right directions. So he had a little bit of anxiety already in the body. And with all that in mind, I was kind of a little disappointed because I thought, oh, I don't know if his results he's going to get during my sound class is going to be that dramatic because he has all of these underlying pressures he's worrying about in the background of what we're doing. And he got back to me about 3 months later after the doctors had given him a printout of that report. And I mean, I shouldn't be surprised because I've experienced it and I've watched other people experience it. But the most relaxing and parasympathetic reaction that he had for all of the things he had done during that 3 days was sound healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. And do you think people often underestimate how much the body is communicating beneath the surface because they're only listening at the physical layer?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even know that they're really listening at the physical layer. I feel that a lot of people suppress all of their body signals. So oftentimes we overvalue our mind, and our mind is a beautiful tool, and we need it to navigate our avatar throughout the 3D reality. Right? Our mind allows us to have this conversation, to have language, to interact with each other. But our body speaks in a different language. It speaks in sensations, emotions, vibrations, feelings. And oftentimes we suppress those feelings, right? We take a sleeping pill when we can't sleep. We take Advil when we get a headache. We take caffeine to wake us up when we're tired. And we don't really listen at all to our body. And even when we then think about in the realm of feelings and the communication our body's trying to talk to us, I think that most people can relate to the idea that they probably suppress their feelings a lot too, where maybe they didn't speak up because they were worried about how other people would perceive it, or maybe uh, they thought their way out of a feeling. They talked themselves out of listening to their gut instincts and to their heart space for the things they wanted. And it's often we suppress those more subtle communications in the body, and we allow the ego to squish our feelings and it protects us. I mean, there's a mechanism that is beneficial for that, but I think that if everybody could take time to make more space in their life and make more stillness. And I mean, that's sacred to sound too, because as beautiful as sound is, sound doesn't be created unless there's silence before it. And I think when we create that space for silence and stillness, that we create room to listen to the body. And I think that we would be amazed how much the body really has to say if we trusted in it and treated it as a partner that was with us for the rest of our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And what you're saying reframes healing as a multidimensional dialogue rather than a physical battle, which is such a powerful shift.
It is. And I think that and it's not that we don't need to treat our body at the physical level because we definitely do. We need to hydrate and we need to eat and we need to breathe. We need to move our bodies. But it doesn't just stop there. So the body requires energy. So now we need to look at the energy body as well. And we need to do things like grounding our feet in the ground to get negative ions. We need to sun gaze. We need to do things that make us happy. And I think all of us can even think about then our emotions too, that whenever we cry and we're sad, usually that makes us feel like we wanna lie down, introvert, we get tired, we yawn after crying, we maybe get a headache, and it really shuts us down. But then when we think about, like, for myself, that moment where the house music inspired me to get up and have bliss again, whenever you hear that favorite song of yours or somebody tells a joke or you're in the company of somebody that nourishes your soul, think about how much more energy you have. I mean, even when you fall in love, that energy that you could just stay awake all night long talking to this new love in your life, that's because those emotions are energy in and of themselves. So it's not just a physical body, it's not even just the energy, it is the mind, it is the emotions. And then when you make it all the way to the most concentric layer of our being, the most primal one is the divinity of bliss. And bliss is so often suppressed in our life. And you see it starting to manifest in the smallest ways where people have fatigue, where they disconnect, where they maybe are starting to have anxiety or depression. And if we can catch things at that level and they don't go all the way into the body where you get something as serious as MS or a cancer diagnosis or something that now, once it's in the physical body, becomes more difficult to really heal, if we could look at those subtle layers of ourselves and really be in tune with them, it not only does it prevent all of those other negative physical things from happening to us, it really keeps us in alignment with our real purpose, the real reason why we're here. And bliss is our natural state of being. And that's why I love sound, because sound, I mean, I whether you listen to, classical music, rock music, for myself, I love house music. Everybody, when their favorite song comes on, their physiology changes immediately.
Yeah, totally. And the five koshas offer a remarkable map for healing across all layers of being. So, which kosha do you feel people are most disconnected from today and why?
Well, I would think that most people, and it's funny because it's the one we live in the most frequently is our physical body, but yet somehow people get this one really wrong. Um, and And it is foundational to the other one. So, I think that we are disconnected at the top from our bliss too, because there's a lot of people in the world that are wandering aimlessly. They don't have purpose. They don't have a passion. They are just kind of on autopilot going through the motions of life because they've disconnected from the idea that they are connected to everything around them. And they feel the separateness of a physical body, which is an illusion because we are all connected, not just to each other, to the fields, to the earth, to the cosmos. And when we don't believe that or we don't understand that, we do feel separate. But when we disconnect from the body and we don't really pay attention to that, it's not just like we might get depression or not be on our path when we're at these higher levels of bliss. The physical body, when we get it wrong, can result in disease and death. And when I look at the world around us now and see how many people are unwell and sick, then we're really not even getting the basic level right. And it's surprising when we look at Western medicine and we think that they might have the upper hand on the physical body, seeing as that's primarily where they focus with pharmaceuticals, surgeries, and biochemistry. But yet somehow we still have it so wrong. We have these rising rates of obesity and diabetes and autoimmune disease and cancer. And I think that if you clog up the body, it's like putting, veils over top of you. So when we have bad diet, bad food, we're not moving enough, we have toxic relationships, toxic people, jobs we don't like. Each one of these is another veil that we place on top of ourselves. So it's no wonder that by the time you get up to the bliss body, that you can't even see it anymore. You're so disconnected from spirit. And this is why I think we need to start peeling back layers. And I know for some people, when I just say, meditate, a lot of people have a hard time doing that. But it's a lot easier if we go back down to the basics, like hydrate yourself with clean water and go outside today and walk. So many of us are just inside on devices and disconnected, and we're only interacting with each other through avatars. And although it's beautiful, it's allowing me and you to talk to each other today, to have this really beautiful, positive conversation. For a lot of people, all they're using it for is to distract themselves scrolling through social media, online shopping, sports. And there's a place for those things if they can provide something in your life, but they've certainly become the main attraction for a lot of people, and it's taken us away from the rhythms and the beauty of nature, of our bodies, and with our communities.
Yeah, definitely. And when you guide clients back into that layer, what's the first change you usually see in them?
I think that you start to see people changing relationships with other people in their lives. So a lot of the clients that come to see me have had a lot of trauma in their past. So they have a lot of stuck stories that they tell themselves over and over. And this is again, it's not really about the content of what's happened to us. It's the context that we give it. And a lot of these people that I see that have all of these stories that have followed them sometimes for decades, and they retell themselves these things over and over. And when I can start to get them to practice something as small as gratitude, and just to start looking around at all of the things you have to be grateful for, and it becomes kind of infectious. And the more you think about gratitude, the easier it becomes to live in the emotion and the energy and the frequency of gratitude. So I try to get people to do simple practices just like every night at dinner, and then for those people that are religious, they might do grace or pray at dinner, and that's a beautiful practice too. If not, just doing gratitude around your table to share each other's days instead of complaining, because I think we get in the habit sometimes of being negative. And another thing I like to give people is just to recount positive stories. As humans, it is in our survival to remember things that are protective for our survival, like dangers and negativity. So we do end up having a negativity bias that if we want to maintain bliss in our life and joy, we have to do some conscious effort to overcome that negativity bias. So I like to practice as simple as recounting memories that you had with somebody that was positive. So in my family, we go around the table and we try to recall something that happened in the past that was funny, that we loved. Sometimes we felt supported. And I know it seems so simple and surface level, but sometimes those small changes start to make bigger changes down the road because it changes the biochemistry in your body as you change your emotions and you change the beliefs that create the emotions. So, whatever events happen to us, the thoughts we think, we give them meaning, and that meaning creates an emotion in the body. So, if we can start working on programming ourselves to have more positive emotions, then the physical body downstream from that is going to live in an environment that's happy and safe and ready for healing.
Yeah, it's fascinating how returning to subtle awareness can create such immediate visible transformation.
Yeah, it does, and it can be immediate. I know some of these things feel like they take a long time, and I mean, it is a practice. I mean, when I think about yoga, and I have one I say to my students all the time when we first start a new session is Atta Yoga Anasasanam, which is now we begin the practice or discipline of yoga. And it is a discipline. And it is a practice. It isn't something that we just do one time. It's the same. You wouldn't think that you go to the gym and just exercise one time and you're going to be fit. The same is when you're trying to clear out your mind and create this new environment for healing. It is a practice, it is a discipline, and we have to show up consistently. But the truth is energy doesn't move slow, it's instantaneous, right? And when we tap into something new, a new choice, a new decision, that frequency shift doesn't take time. It is immediate. But what happens is that we can slip back into old patterns. So we have to come back and show up again and practice again until that new behavior becomes the default mode and it becomes the thing that we fall back onto. And that is possible. We just need to put in some effort to make a shift, but healing is possible for everybody.
Yes, 100%. And in your group, sound baths and private sessions, what kind of emotional or energetic patterns do you see releasing most often?
Um, I think the one might be self-love that comes up a lot. So generally how I guide my classes is we have like a dharma or talk about, you know, some kind of energetic or emotional topic to get us started to sort of set whatever the theme is going to be. And then we move our bodies a little bit to stretch and open. We do a meditation, then followed into the sound bath portion. And Oftentimes during meditation, I've noticed, especially when we do any kind of love meditation, one that's been really profound for people is this practice of we start by thinking of somebody that we love a lot and we hold them in our mind, right? This could be our child, a pet, our partner. And it's pretty easy to find reasons why we love them and to see their smiling face back in our mind. And we take that high emotion and then we apply it to people that maybe are just acquaintances. So maybe it's our neighbor, maybe it's somebody that we see on the bus to work or in the grocery checkout line. And now start to apply those really high positive emotions to that person and start to imagine maybe what do they bring to our life and what nice things have they done? Maybe they held the door for us. Maybe they helped us shovel our driveway and all the nice things we can think about them. And then I move that to a person that maybe you've struggled with in the past, who maybe in the past it was very difficult to apply any positive emotion to. And once we start to now think about that person and think, well, what redeeming qualities might this person have? Like, because surely even if you've had a difficult time with them, there still are things that are worthwhile about this person and reasons why other people might love them. And what can we see in that person while we're still in this high state of energy that we created by thinking about people we loved? And then sometimes I reach the end of that conclusion and I think and I say to people, did you put yourself at any place on the list? And this often always gets a reaction of tears and of kind of surprise because I know when I practice this love meditation every evening for a few months in my life, it took me a few months until I realized that I had never put myself on the list. And I know that that hit me really hard and that every time I did it after that, I put myself first on the list, that I loved myself. And I know how transformative it was for me. And when I've shared that insight with other people throughout the years, I see that it really brings up this feeling of in the past, how people have lived in those lower emotions of shame, of guilt, of unworthiness. And if we can take those elevated emotions that we so easily, the compassion, the love that we give to other people in our lives and start applying it to ourselves, that's a beautiful place to start healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So thank you, Dana, for opening this rich conversation on listening. Truly listening to the body's vibration, its stories, and its longing to return to harmony. For everyone tuning in, may this episode invite you to soften your pace, tune into your own frequency, and explore healing not as a destination, but as a relationship with yourself. If something resonated today, take one small step, attend a sound bath, sit with a tone, or simply place a hand on your heart and listen. Your journey back to wholeness begins with that single moment of awareness.